Hi, welcome to this week's video. My name is Paul. So this week is a soft pastel landscape painting. And this video is pretty much unedited, which means you're going to get to see pretty much the entire process of creating the painting slash sketch. Some people might say it's more of a sketch than a painting, but I don't want to get into all the semantics of what a painting is or isn't. To me, it's a painting. It is a very quick painting, and it's only about 4 or 5 minutes, so that's why I've pretty much unedited the video, just uploaded it. It's about a year since I got back into using soft pastels, and I definitely I'm glad I did get back into it. If you've never tried soft pastels, I do recommend them. They're very good for creating sort of expressive marks and things. This painting, again, there's no reference, it's not done outside, it's all just sort of imagination and memory. And what I was going for was standing in a field with a slightly distant hillside, maybe late February, early March, so sort of end of winter, beginning of spring, and it's cold, it's windy, and I wanted to try and get that feeling in the sky as well, where the clouds are blowing about. Which is always a challenge, of course, when you're drawing and painting, because you don't have that movement. But you can try and suggest it, I guess. And that's one of the things I was trying to do with this. In terms of materials, it's, like I said before, mostly Schmincke soft pastels. There's a couple of Sennelier soft pastels, and there's a couple of harder sort of Conte style pastels, but mostly Schmincke soft pastels. The paper is Pastelmat, and as you can see, it's a slightly toned, sort of slightly greenish grey toned paper, and the Pastelmat has that coated surface that you can build up layers of pastel quite easily. At this stage in the painting process, this is where I sort of stopped and think this is kind of the halfway point, because the sky is done. I don't want to touch the sky anymore. The more I mess around with the sky, I think the more I'll lose of that sort of energy that's in the sky. But the landscape is still, it needs something, and what I'm trying to decide now is how much more to do. I want to add some color to the hillside and maybe suggest some detail in the foreground. With the pastels, one of the problems I had when I first got started at the beginning of this year was using too many colors, I think. The thing about pastels compared to paint, whether it's oil, watercolor, acrylic, whatever type of paint it is, you can mix the paint on the palette, or you can mix it on the canvas or on the paper. Okay, you can mix to some extent soft pastels, or you can layer them, but you can't mix them the way you can with paint, which means you end up having to buy more colors and more different shades of colors, which means you end up with lots and lots of pastel sticks. And then when you have them, there's always the temptation to use them. So I think one of the things I've had to do this year is learn to minimize the number of pastels that I'm actually using for any particular painting. The other thing about this one, and if you've watched a couple of recent videos, I'm interested in the idea of paintings that look sort of slightly unfinished, so there's bits of the paper showing through, and that's definitely something I went for with this one. Because it's a toned paper, it's not as obvious. When I do the watercolor and the white paper shows through, it's more obvious. But I like that sort of loose impressionistic feeling. So that's painting done. I decided at that point that's enough. think the more I add, the less fresh it feels. You could end up with this idea of overworking a painting. Overall, I was happy with it. I like the sky. I like the fact that it is very simple and very loose. And I think there's some interest in the marks that you can make with pastels, the lines and things. Well, if you made it this far into the video, thank you for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.